Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fenske. On June 19, 1865, Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, with huge news for the enslaved people there. They were free. Slavery was no longer illegal anywhere in the United States or the vanquished Confederacy. Now, that news came to Galveston more than 2 months after the end of the Civil War and more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation officially freed slaves across the Confederacy. But the shock and jubilation was real, and ever since, many Americans have celebrated their freedom on Juneteenth. This year, Juneteenth festivities have added resonance, and here to explain why is Carla Wright, who goes by Coffee. She is the founder and organizer of a Juneteenth parade here in St. Louis. Coffee, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we're also joined today by Kelvin Riley Jr. He's the director of the George B. Vashon Museum, which celebrates African American history here in St. Louis. Kelvin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Kelvin, I want to start with you so we can get some history. Juneteenth has its roots in this one specific celebration in Galveston, Texas. Why did it take so long for the people there to get the good news?
Because under the Emancipation Act, there were 250,000 Texas slaves declared free, but the slave owner kept the news hidden from them, and they were not freed until 2.5 years later, when General Jordan Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas with his troops in about 1865. But the Union soldiers didn't have enough to enforce the act, so they still were enslaved for a short time.
So basically it required federal troops to get in there and enforce this law. It wasn't good enough to have it on the books. People had to be liberated in real life as well as a matter of law. Is that fair to say?
Right.
So why did this particular celebration in Galveston then? Why is this the one that looms so large? I imagine people were probably celebrating all across the South.
Well, it's because it took them a couple of years to become free, and once they became free, it was called a scatter, where the slaves learned they had been declared free. The slaves were offered money to stay, but they did not want to stay with the slave owners. They wanted to be free. Mm-hmm. And as a result, many of the former slaves were beaten, they were hanged, they were killed for trying to run away to freedom. Mm-hmm. And so Juneteenth is a holiday, June 19th, to celebrate their freedom and the loss of lives due to wanting to be free. It was customary to celebrate with the color red for the demonstrating the blood. Mm-hmm. They used red soda pop, red velvet cake, watermelon. They also had fried chicken, black-eyed peas, barbecue, greens, and they danced and they sang freedom songs. So that's a celebration.
A great celebration, but also some very serious undertones there with that blood red. Coffee, to those who aren't familiar with the celebrations of this holiday, how would you describe it?
I would describe Juneteenth as America's second day of independence. And because that's, as Kelvin said, we had 4th of July, 1776, when Britain gave America their freedom, but slaves they weren't free. We were still slaves. So in 1863, actually, is when we were free, but the 4 bordering states, Missouri, West Virginia, Delaware, and Texas, it still hadn't been enforced. So we were actually free in 1865. And so it's America's second day of independence. It's everyone who believed that slavery should be abolished should be celebrating Juneteenth, because this is America's second day of independence.
So this, Coffee, for you, this is not just a holiday for African Americans to celebrate. All of us, you're saying, should get in on this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of white people helped us to be free as well. They were in charge of the Underground Railroads, and which we were able to utilize when we did escape. And so everyone should be celebrating Juneteenth because, again, this is America's second day of independence.
Well, if you're listening to this conversation and you celebrate Juneteenth, we want to invite you to join us. You can give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. We're curious to hear about your family's traditions and what this holiday means to you. You can also send us a tweet at STL On Air, or you can email us at talk@stlpublicradio.org. Now, Calvin, I understand that you are from St. Louis, but it wasn't until you moved to Texas in the early 90s that you even learned about this holiday. What did you see as you were there in Texas in terms of celebrations?
Well, yeah, I did not know about Juneteenth until I moved to Dallas, Texas to teach in the independent school district. And it was never mentioned to me when I was in college or in school. But when I was in Texas, some of the teachers would talk to me about it. And one teacher, I talked to her few days ago, and she told me that when she was a little girl, she remembers celebrating Juneteenth as a young girl, and it was like the 4th of July today. She said her grandmother would have her hair done, bought her new clothes, and attended picnics. Sometimes they went swimming at the only colored swimming pool in East Texas. Some Texas cities would have parades in the African-American neighborhoods. The parades would include fancy cars, school bands, dance groups, political figures, and speakers. And so this is, but after during the Texas migration in the 1915, 1930s, they carried the tradition with them as they migrated from Texas. And so today, more than 100 cities in the United States and Canada celebrate Juneteenth.
Now, Coffee, I understand you also didn't learn about this holiday in school. That seems like such a sad omission. I'm sad to hear about that. What was your experience celebrating it as a child?
Well, as a child, I remember as a teenager, we would have events in the park that Percy Green would give, and they called them Afro Day, but it was actually Juneteenth.
And Percy, of course, for our listeners who aren't familiar, he is one of the civil rights legends of St. Louis. So he was big into this, you're saying, Coffee.
Yeah, he gave that, and my family was aware of it in St. Louis. So we have been celebrating it and looked upon as kind of eccentric because what are we celebrating? Some people, even Black people, were offended, like, oh, that's like we were being racist or something because we're recognizing our freedom. And that's why I pushed so hard. I wrote the Juneteenth national anthem. I, just push every year to give Juneteenth celebrations and encourage everyone to do it. As a matter of fact, I did St. Louis's first official Juneteenth parade, and that's been going on for a while now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've really been involved with pushing this, and I love to see that. It feels like a lot of America is talking about it this year, but St. Louis can say, we had celebrations even before this big push, and Coffee, I think that's almost entirely due to you.
Well, it's not entirely due to me. I'm also a member of the National Juneteenth Foundation, and we have phone conference every Saturday. We talk, and we have people all over the whole United States and even a few in several countries in Africa where we meet and we push Juneteenth in our state. And then, of course, we push it on social media. So that way we're getting the word out there. We're all getting the word out there. We're all directors of each state. And my brother, as well as several of my friends, was a part of making Juneteenth an actual holiday in the state of Missouri. It's a holiday in 44 states, and we're going for the entire country. We want the entire country. We want Juneteenth to be a national holiday.
We are talking to Coffee Wright, who's the founder and organizer of the Juneteenth parade here in St. Louis. And as she was just describing, a lot of efforts to make more people acknowledge this holiday. We're also talking to Calvin Riley Jr., the director of the George B. Vashon Museum, which celebrates African-American history in St. Louis. I'm going to go to the phone lines. Jonathan is calling from Ferguson, and I believe he might be somebody who has a celebration of this as well. Jonathan, hi, you're on St. Louis on the Air.
Hi, good afternoon, Sarah, and I first commend you for having Coffee on, and Calvin. You guys are doing awesome work. Keep it up. St. Louis loves you for it. Just calling in from Ferguson. I think that barbecue is the tradition where, we eat rib tips, snoots, and St. Louis style ribs. That's been a family tradition. So eating barbecue to celebrate Juneteenth with friends and family. So.
Boy, Jonathan, I want to be in your family. That sounds like some good food right there.
Well, we actually have Roper's Ribs barbecue too. So that's where it comes from. We celebrate through a lifelong career of food and love. So
That's great. Well, that's great to hear about your celebration. Thank you for that, Jonathan.
thank you.
Coffee, the idea of barbecue, is this something that you see a lot of people doing among your friends and family?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Barbecue. And for Juneteenth, some of the traditions is watermelon, strawberry, soda, and it all goes hand in hand. But, but the main thing is about networking. It's about support. It's about continuing to educate people on health issues, on, and just the fight, the overall fight for us to keep pushing, because freedom isn't free and no one's free till everyone's free. So, that's it's been a long fight. We just signing today to try to we're signing the article to make Juneteenth not only to make it it's already a holiday here, but we're put a resolution to see that people are to get paid and respect that holiday as a total official holiday. And I think that's going to really open some more eyes. And people will have more of appreciation for Juneteenth.
Calvin, it does feel like there is this growing movement that this needs to be a paid holiday. What do you think is driving that, where it's something that so many people are talking about this year in particular?
Well, I think because we got this movement going on right now, and I think there's a great need to do things to bring it down where it's smoothing out, and I think that's what's going on. Back in 1990, members of the Congressional Ballot Caucus, they worked to put this on the national calendar, and on April the 10th, 1997, the Senate approved the resolution, but it's never been approved by the House to make Juneteenth Independent Day. So I think this is what's going on. I think now, since this is going on across the United States, I think it will come where they'll try to get this passed and make it a national holiday.
Finally be some movement on that. Now, St. Louis activist Carla Tenney Howard, she talked to St. Louis Public Radio reporter Andrea Henderson yesterday. And Carla explained one reason that this year feels different to her.
I believe that we are in a time of great potential. We have the potential to create real change in America, systems change. And because we have so many people down for the movement right now, it's an exciting time. It is a scary time because change is scary. But I think Juneteenth is just going to encompass what it means to go through unprecedented change. When those last slaves found out that they were free, there's that moment of what's next. It's that moment of what's next. We're in a place where our voices have so much power that we can create some real change. So we're like, okay, what's next? Once you get that taste of freedom and know what freedom is, you want more of it. And unfortunately, America hasn't given us our full freedoms yet. But we're in a position to fight for that full freedom now. What they gave us in 1865 wasn't the total package. But what we're going to take in 2020 is the total package.
And that's activist Carla Tenney Howard speaking to Andrea Henderson of St. Louis Public Radio yesterday. Coffee, does that resonate with you, that parallel between what was happening in Galveston in 1865 and this historic moment that we're in now?
Yes, it does. And I'm so proud, especially of Galveston. My godmother, Miss Opal Lee, she's one of the oldest, one of our elders in the Juneteenth movement. And she walked from Texas to the White House.
Whoa.
In 2016 she did. And she stopped in St. Louis and I joined her and walked her out of St. Louis on over to Missouri. And so we are constantly building up the momentum and constantly getting the word out. And I'm just so excited that more and more people are appreciating Juneteenth and not just Blacks, not just African Americans. I did a survey in 2016 and I discovered that more whites were familiar with Juneteenth than African Americans. And 7 out of 10 people I would ask never heard of Juneteenth. And the ones that did were majority of Caucasians.
That's fascinating. So yeah, it seems like part of the education effort that you have, this is really starting to pay off. People are now much more aware of it.
Yep, absolutely. And we're gonna keep pushing. I'm speaking at 3 different events today, and we have a major Juneteenth parade today, and all the officials are here. They were all at my first parade and event, and and so it's growing. So I'm just excited that people are accepting it more and not looking at it as some type of racial event, but as an event of freedom and respect.
Now, Coffee, I understand that you have hosted these parades in St. Louis since 2016, but this year's parade is going to look a little bit different because of the pandemic. What do you have in mind for this year?
Yeah, this year is what I call a riding rally. And what we're going to do is pretty much just be in our cars. We're going to ride around throughout the city of St. Louis as well as North County. And those are the predominantly Black areas, but we do have City of St. Louis is about half and half, actually. And so we definitely want to make as many African Americans aware of this holiday, because Juneteenth, 4th of July was one of the slaves' most dreaded holidays. And African Americans just go out of their way. Most of us have our family reunions on the 4th of July. And so we spend so much money on the 4th of July. We're wearing red, white, blue stars and stripes, and all that's fine. But Juneteenth, we have to recognize that day as well. It was hard work and a lot of sacrifices put into for us to become free, you know. And when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, we need to know about it. We weren't taught that in school. They left that out of the history books.
Well, and now finally, that's beginning to change. Calvin, St. Louis County has now recognized Juneteenth as a holiday for employees this year. St. Louis City just declared it a holiday too, I believe, as of yesterday. They do have plans to make it a paid holiday next fiscal year. Would you like to see other governments follow their lead on that?
I think so. I think it needs to be a national holiday, just like others. African Americans need to celebrate their heritage just like other races do, because it's very, very important. I think that's why we have a lot of problems in the Black community, because a lot of the young Black guys do not understand their history. I had them come to the museum here, and I had a matter of fact, I had a Black guy last year came in the museum, had his pants to hang it down. He with his girlfriend. She's the one that wanted to come in. And before he left the museum, when I was talking to him about all these outstanding men in this museum, before he left, his pants were pulling up.
So you feel like he had maybe an increased sense of pride after learning about this history?
Right, he did, yeah. So I think that's what we have to do to try to save our community, is to teach the history, because if you don't know where you come from, then you cannot move forward. You got to know your history. It's very, very important.
Now, our producer, Laura Hamden, spoke with Shakia Gullett. She's the director of African American Initiatives for the Missouri Historical Society, which runs the Missouri History Museum. And she explained to us what she's going to be thinking about this Juneteenth.
I think right now, during this current climate and just dealing with the death of Black bodies by police brutality, this year, Juneteenth is definitely more of a time for me to be reflective and introspective and think about ways that we can make change, whether that means making changes in your organization, speaking up, activating your voice. To me, that's what Juneteenth means to me, especially this year, thinking about the ancestors that paved the way and the daily fight that they had to endure.
And that's Shakia Gullett of the Missouri Historical Society. Coffee, what are you going to be thinking about this year during these celebrations in particular?
I'm thinking about promoting more Black businesses and independence, because to be independent, to be free, you have to, freedom and economics and all that goes together. And so when slavery was abolished, we left with nothing. And so we're not looking for a handout, but we may need a hand up. We need to help each other as well. So I'm promoting recycling Black dollars, promoting Black businesses, and staying alive right now. We all have to we definitely have to we have to stay alive. We have to respect the social distancing. And so I have a slogan that a new chant that I came up with, and my organization, I'm a member of UAPO, and we say, you kill us, we kill your economy. Black dollar powers, keep your hands off me. So we have to recognize, and we have to push accountability, because we don't feel free when things happen the injustices that's been taking place, that's been waking up everybody in open eyes, such as Mr. Floyd and even more. So it's about freedom. When one is not free till everyone is free. So we have to push accountability, because there's one race, and that's called human. And we have to understand that, and everybody has to respect it. Respect everybody.
So, Coffee, you're focused on that accountability and also some of these economic issues this year. I think those are both so important. And as far as some of these Juneteenth events go, in particular, the parade that Coffee is organizing, we will have those details on our website. That's stlpublicradio.org. And Coffee Wright of the Juneteenth Parade, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I wrote the Juneteenth National Anthem. I don't know if you have time.
Unfortunately, we are out of time today. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, the time just flew. But thank you for that. And people should go to the parade to get that. So, and
thank you.
And Calvin Riley Jr., director of the George B. Vashon Museum, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. That's 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.